Hi, my name is Jake, and I am a bookish drummer. So for this video, I'm going to be talking about the longest books left on my TBR. And what I mean by that is all of the long books, which I'm defining as 700 pages or more, that are on my physical TBR that I have not yet read. And honestly, I thought I would have more, but as far as like 700 pages or more, I only have 9. I probably will have more in the future because one of the series that I'm reading, basically all of the books left are over 700 pages, so it's technically more than that, but for right now, I only have the 4th book in the series, so that might be a hint for y'all. I don't know. But anyway, enough of that crap. I have 9 books to show y'all today, all of which are more than 700 pages. Some of them I'm more excited and more anxious to get to than others, and of course, as I go through, I will let y'all know all of the good details while I'm talking about him. And yeah, I believe that's it. So enough of the preamble. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the first book I have to show y'all today is by one of my favorite authors of all time, and that would be Killing Commandator. I don't really know how to say that. Killing Commandator? I don't know. But either way, it's by Haruki Murakami. I think I bought this book either last year or maybe like a couple years ago. Still haven't quite gotten around to it. Although when I do, I will definitely be reading along with the audiobook because it's narrated by Kirby Hayborn. I think I've actually started this book before, but you got to be in the right mood for Haruki Murakami. And definitely when I first bought this and I first tried to read it, I was not quite in the right mind space. So I was kind of blanking out through most of it. So hopefully one day I'll get back into it and I'll really enjoy it. And I'll enjoy Kirby's narration of it. But yeah, it's a chunker. It might not look like it, but the pages are pretty thin. And it's a little more than 700 pages. So quite lengthy for a Murakami book. And I just read a couple months ago Wind Up Bird Chronicle. And that book kind of like in the second half felt very unnecessary and a bit wordy and lengthy. So hopefully I don't feel that way about this book, but you never know. But yeah, it's 700 pages and I'll get to it eventually. And yeah, out of all of these books, it's probably the shortest. So I got some chunkers ahead of us. Next book I have to talk about is a book that people have been reading a lot, like last year and this year, and I still don't quite know what it's about, but I just picked it up because I've heard a lot of good things about it. And that would be Empire of Silence by Christopher Rucchio. Again, with these names that I can't pronounce. But yeah, it's supposed to be like a sci fantasy, like a very good blend between science fiction and fantasy. And honestly, I think there's a lot of comparisons to Dune, maybe. But other than that, I really have no idea what this book is about. But it's a chunker, which a lot of the times for sci-fi, chunkers don't really do it for me like fantasy does. So it's a little off-putting in that sense. But it also has short chapters, which is good. It's also like a little more than 700 pages. A lot of this is like index stuff though, so okay, yeah, the end of the book is a little more than 700 pages, but like the last like 40 pages of it is just index, which I'm assuming is like glossary and like a list of names, which reminds me a lot of Malazan, so we'll see about that. But yeah, I will eventually get to this, and it's definitely a chunker. And these next 3 or 4 books or so are all over 750 pages, so slightly more chunky. And the next one I have to talk about is A Cavern of Black Ice by J.B. Jones. I've heard a lot of good things about this. I've heard it compared to A Song of Ice and Fire. I've heard some people say it's better than A Song of Ice and Fire, which... but, you know, I won't know until I try it out. I think I've been a little hesitant just because there's no audio for this, so I'd have to do the whole thing physically, which I'm more of an immersion reader. I like to listen to the audio while I read along physically, but I mean, I'm capable of reading a physical book, but yeah, I've heard good things about it. I really haven't heard a lot of people say bad things about it, so that's good. But it's definitely a chunker. It's 750 pages. Yeah, the chapters are a little long. 750 pages, but I think only about 50 chapters. So not too long, but a little long. It's not like friggin' Malazan with 100-page chapters. Ugh, but yeah. Cavern of Black Ice, I will eventually read it. Again, no idea because I just have so many books I want to read, but it's a chunker that's on my TBR, so in the video it goes. Another chunky fantasy book that I started a while ago, but couldn't quite get into it, so I like temporarily DNF'd it, would be The Dragonbone Chair by Tad Williams. For me, and yeah, it's a chunky one. I think it's almost 800 pages. It's like 760 pages. But yeah, like I was saying, I was enjoying it a little bit more so because of the actual writing. I will agree that Tad Williams is a terrific writer, just like from language and prose standpoints. But for me, like the first few chapters were very boring. Not much was happening. A lot of world building stuff, and a lot of it went over my head, which a lot of people told me will happen, and it'll be more important towards, the end of the series. But for me, like, that's not quite how I like my writing. Even though the writing is very beautiful, I need good characters and a propelling story to also go along with it, which I wasn't really getting with this. But I will give it a shot eventually because I've heard great things about the second and the third book. So I will eventually return to this, but probably not anytime soon, realistically. But again, another chunker that's on my TBR. This next book actually looks way chunkier than it actually is. It looks like it's 1,000 pages, but it's actually only like 750 pages. Quite funny. But the book, the actual book, is The Elven by Bernard Hennen. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Yeah, I really don't know that much about it. All I know is that my good friend and fellow booktuber Josephina really likes this book, but I think she read it in German, I believe, and then she wants to go back and read it in English. If I'm wrong, you can correct me, Josephina. Tell me I'm an idiot. But I think that's how it is. And I think we're going to buddy read it in September. I believe that's the plan. We made that plan like a while ago, so we might have to change it. I have no idea, but it's definitely a chunker. And like I said, it looks a lot longer than it is. It looks like a 1,000-page tome, but it's more in the 700 range. Fairly big font, so it's not going to take like a long time to read, but it'll definitely take a lot of dedication. But yeah, The Elven. I've also heard the audiobook is very good. I believe it's narrated by Michael Page, who did Lies of Locke Lamora. I think someone told me that. Who told me that? I don't remember. But either way, I'm excited to get to it eventually, and it's definitely a chunker. The next book I will be talking about, which is a book that I've actually tried to read in the past, but I read it on Kindle, and I wasn't really a big fan of Kindle, but now I have the physical copy, and I'm actually planning on reading this book next month, which when you watch my TBR video, you will know why I'm going to do that. But anyway, let's shut up, Jake, and hold up the book. Sephirals Hand by Melissa McPhail, which is one of the most beautiful covers that I own now. And for a long time, these they're still expensive, but these paperbacks used to be like $30 or $35 or something ridiculous. I think I managed to get this for like 20 bucks. So yeah, I finally have this. And like I said, I've read the first half of this before on Kindle, but I can't do ebooks. Like I just don't like it. I think I've read Assassin's Apprentice, but that one was much shorter. I tried to read this on ebook and I was just like, I want the physical book. And it's a chunker. definitely a chunky book. It's about 750 pages with actually much smaller font than the Elven. So probably take a longer time to read this one than it would the Elven. But from what I did read and from what I remember, like my hazy book amnesia memory, this was really good. And I could definitely see this being a new favorite series of mine. Yeah, I'm very interested in checking this book out next month, so be on the lookout for that. This next book, I'll be honest, I'm not terribly excited about, and I'm not terribly interested in reading it, but my girlfriend made me get it, so what can you do? And that would be Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. And this is like a really old mass market paperback version. It's funny because I actually got this book for free on Thrift Books because like you get a certain amount of points or whatever and you get a free book. So I was expecting to get like a newer copy, but they sent me this really old like retro 90s cover, which is actually kind of funny. But yeah, I don't really have any plans on reading it soon. But like I said, my girlfriend Stacy made me get it, and we have a deal that if I read this book, she has to read one of my favorite books, Imaginary Friend, which is one of my favorite books, and that's also pretty chunky. So I feel like that's a fair deal. But, you know, I could like it because some of the elements in here sound good. Some of them don't sound like my cup of tea, but you never know. And I'm all about giving books a shot. It's also very chunky. It's more than 800 pages. And another thing that kind of bothers me, it's like 840 pages, but it only has 40 chapters. So more long chapters, like at least a lot of 20-page chapters, which I'm not a huge fan of, but oh, whoops. I will eventually get to this if I don't drop it into a pit of fire. But yeah, Outlander, 800 some pages, pretty chunky. All right, and the last two books are the chunkiest books that I have on my physical TBR that I have not yet read. And one of them was like the series that I was talking about where like I plan on reading more. This is the only one I have left physically, and that would be House of Chains by Steven Erikson. Now this book is actually, according to the audio, it's shorter than Memories of Ice, which I just read either last month or a couple months ago. Which that book was only 900 pages, but this book is over 1,000 pages. But I think it's because the font is a lot bigger. But anyway, I am very excited about this, and not only will I be reading along physically, but I'm also going to get the audiobook, which is also narrated by Michael Page, who once again did Lies of Locke Lamora, which is probably my favorite fantasy audiobook. I love Michael Page's narration. And I can't wait for the rest of Malazan simply because he narrates the rest of Malazan. So books 4 to 10. So I'm very excited for that. I've heard mixed things about this book, but also, you know, I'm willing to give it a shot because I'm already 3 books in, so I might as well keep going. Book 3 was like 3.5 stars. Actually, my least favorite Malazan book so far, but we'll see. I think there's supposed to be some returning characters in here that I really love, so that'll be good. And like I said, it's a chunky book. It's 1,000 pages. Editing Jake here. I completely forgot about one of the longest books on my TBR, and that would be Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. And you're probably wondering, how the hell did you miss this, Jake? It's literally a brick of a book. Well, for some reason, I had it on my very bottom shelf along with my thrillers, and I really didn't feel the need to go check my thrillers, because usually thrillers are relatively short, but it was there, and you know, I was just like wandering around my thriller sections looking for stuff, and I was just like, wait a minute, this book, I completely forgot. So yeah, it's, you know, by far one of the longest books I have left to read. My copy, I think it's like 1,000 pages, but it also has like 100 pages of footnotes or something like that, so it's definitely a chunker. And yeah, it's probably going to take me a lot longer to read than House of Chains, so I think I'm going to have to put this at the number 2 spot. I don't think I'm ranking this. It's been a while since I filmed that video, so yeah. Probably a very weird, sudden interruption here. But yeah, I forgot about this book. And I'm definitely interested in reading it, of course. But where am I going to find the time to do that? I don't know. But I know Pete from the Ponderings of Pete is enjoying it for the most part. But he's also taking his sweet time. So I don't know. But yeah, just wanted to pop in here. I completely forgot about this book. But there's still one that's longer than this one. So you'll see it in a minute. I've already filmed it, but you haven't seen it yet. So take that. All right, and the last book that I have to show y'all, reach down here and get it. It's a chunky one, and it's by another author that I already mentioned in this video. I've actually read, it's written in 3 parts. I've read part 1 a long time ago, and I was going to like take a break and then jump back into it, but of course, that ship has sailed, so whenever I read this book again, I'm going to have to reread all of part 1, just like 400 pages. just shut up, Jake, and show the book. 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami. I really enjoyed part 1. I really did, but I needed a break because it was so much. And yeah, like you can see, it's a chunky book. I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's over 1,100 pages, and I think the audio was like 46 hours. Something like that. So it's definitely the chunkiest book I have left on my TBR. Whenever I decide to read it, I need to like make sure I have time to read it because it's going to take me a while because it's a chunky one. But like I said, part 1 was really good. I just needed a break. And of course, whenever I go back to read it, I'm going to have to read it all over again. Unless I remember it, but I only remember some of it, not all of it. So yeah, it's a brick of a book. Like you could take someone out with this. But yeah, those are all of the books left on my physical TBR that are over 700 pages that I have left to read. So hopefully y'all enjoyed this. Please let me know down in the comments below. Also, let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them, whether you loved them, whether you hated them, or whether you thought they were kind of meh. Just a smidge meh. Just like a little dash of meh. Either way, let me know down in the comments below. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and the Book Astronomer Discord. And if you'd like to further support me financially, go check out my Patreon page and see what that's all about. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching and have a terrific day.